EDO MBM are basically an offshoot of massive US arms conglomerate, EDO Corporation.
They supply mainly the US and the UK government.
They're huge, they get huge contracts with the US military.
The company in England has factories in Brighton and in Fishersgate.
They manufacture lots of kind of auxiliary parts that are used in fighter aircraft.
They make the components that turn a plane into a fighter plane.
For aircraft they specialise in pylon ancillaries, which means anything which is held onto the plane under the wing.
So they make kind of the high-tech little tiny bits.
The nuts and bolts, release mechanisms.
They make the circuit boards and the little bits and bobs that go in there.
Without them, without these electrical components, the weapons won't work.
According to their website, they supply the Australian Air Force, the British Air Force, the US Air Force, and the Israeli Air Force.
EDO MBM, because even though it's an American-owned company, it is British and has to comply with British law. They're a lot more circumspect in their information. They find it very hard to admit that they sell anything to Israel, for example.
We know that they make bomb release mechanisms for F-16s. We know they make a vital component for the paveway bomb, the most used munition in Iraq.
So they're one link in the chain, which is giving states the power to take part in war crimes like those being committed in Iraq and Palestine.
Does anyone know what the war's about?
Well, the campaign really grew out of the anti-war movement that sort of really kicked off in 2002-2003.
It started because there was so much anti-war feeling at the beginning of the war with Iraq.
The marches that people have been on in London didn't really have any effect.
You know, what are we going to do? There's no point marching in London with 2 million people. That has absolutely no effect.
1 year on, we decided, after the war had been officially declared over, we decided that we'd have try and revitalise the anti-war movement in Brighton.
I think people perhaps thought that it'd be a good idea to look more closely into the links between the local community and the war in Iraq.
There was a meeting at the Friends Meeting House in Brighton where we discussed kind of, amongst other things, direct action. And one of the things that was discussed almost by the way was the fact there was this arms factory in Brighton.
We found out that there was a company called EDO Corporation operating in Moulsecoomb from a press release on the internet.
We had this factory in our backyard that was producing the munitions, the very sort of weapons that were being used in Iraq, and this might be a far more effective target for protest. So many marches in the streets of London, all the streets of Brighton.
The company was proud to be supporting the US UK war effort in Iraq.
This is where the germ of the Smash EDO campaign came from.
I kind of then realised, and I think a lot of people did, that there's a real campaign to be had here.
We decided to start a campaign aimed at closing the factory down.
Everybody, thought it was a good idea and got on board, basically.
EDO MBM out on where it is on Home Farm Road, we're talking about a mile and a half from the city centre, a 1.5 bus ride to go to where EDO MBM are.
The first act of direct action, I suppose, at the factory was blockade and rooftop occupation of the factory.
Thursday the 20th of May 2004. This is a demonstration at Moulsecoomb in Brighton. Camera operator is PC Palmer, Charlie Papa 083. Comms officer is
PC Pete Searle, Charlie Sierra 225.
And driver is,
for the day, PC Graham Masters AM 271.
And thank God it's only for the day.
The main aim of it was a big publicity stunt. It was simply to get people knowing that there was an arms company in Brighton.
For those that haven't been up the front there are two aspects to this. That's 0730, a protest activist in place against premises called EDO MBM. significant thing for those premises is that they make bits that go on the wings of tornado aircraft that drop bombs in Iraq.
So there were 6 of us D-locked by a neck to a set of Harris fencing, like the cages you get around building sites. That was set up in the middle of Home Farm Road, effectively blocking access to and out of the factory, and we were locked on the inside by bayonets by D-locks.
The police were very, very cautious at first because not having had to deal with an action like that in Brighton probably for a long time, they didn't quite know what to do.
I've explained to them that Sussex and Brighton police understand that theatrical forms of protest are an interesting way and an effective way of protesting. I'm not against that.
In fact, it was a dual action. There was not only blockade, but somebody went on, several people went onto the roof.
There's 2 aspects to this. There are 6 people found on the roof of EDO. No damage has been caused and they haven't intruded on the premises. It's essential that they do not intrude on the premises, so we need to be alert that anything we do down this end of the road, if it provokes a reaction at the top of the road, the sanctity of that building will be paramount.
We managed to keep the road shut for you know, probably about 6 hours, I'd say, in total.
My proposal is that we'll make use of the tactical equipment that we've got to cut through the one shackle that holds the barrier together on the far right-hand corner.
I think they took advice from other police forces, you know, who have experience in this kind of these kind of protests.
Speaking with John Reed, tactical advisor, we'll take that advice and have contact with Thames Valley Police this morning, Cambridge Police and the Metropolitan Police, who've got some experience of doing this type of thing. We know that this is a highly motivated group of protesters. Nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong at all.
EDO didn't know what to do and they told all their workers not to come in that day.
What I'll say to you is I want to keep the plan, such as I've described, as simple as possible. What I'll say to you is a plan, however imperfect, is better than no plan.
I think that EDO probably realised that they were known about and their cover was blown, as it were. The first direct action really gave them a flavour of what the campaign was going to be like, that we weren't just going to be about symbolic bearing witness, you know, quiet demos and banner holding, that it was going to be a campaign that had a full toolbox of tactics, one of which was going to be direct action.
I think it was kind of very much the kind of announcement that, you know, to the world that the campaign was kind of sort of fully formed.
I would like EDO to leave Brighton. I would like the arms trade to end. But I feel there should be a movement in Brighton against this particular company. We want to get them out.
All the noise demos started up after that.
People started to come up there on a weekly basis.
At that stage, it was quite a small campaign. There were probably between 7 and 10 people.
And this would consist of people going up with drums, pots and pans, megaphones and loudspeakers, trying to make as much noise as possible to basically to make it impossible for the workers to leave work without having to think about what they did for a living.
The campaign was getting quite intense. There were regular demonstrations up there. There wasn't just the weekly demos, there were also surprise demos up there. There had been demonstrations outside the homes of the directors.
At first, at the very early stages, we found that we were confronting the arms industry. But then we had the addition where the police started to encroach on our rights and become ever increasingly in the way of our protests.
You can walk away, this is a free highway.
They can walk away, we're non-violent, we're peaceful, they can walk away when they want.
They're doing their job, they're trying to feed their families, aren't they? They're trying to pay their bills, which you obviously must relate to.
We of course caught the police's attention, and at that stage they would attend the demonstrations, but on a very small scale.
And in fact, you know, the police presence up there just got heavier and heavier.
The 21st of March 2005 was the turning point of the campaign.
I think with the weapons inspection, by the start of that action, you know, it was obviously something had happened, and you know, I think in the background the police had been conspiring with EDO, the factory.
It's not uncommon for the police to work quite closely with an organisation. and particularly where the people within that organisation claim to be victims of crime.
Right from the very beginning, we were extensively filmed, right from the very bottom of the road, which from my point of view that was a real turning point, because I had not seen the police filming us on previous demonstrations. When we got to the top of the road, there was a large police presence there, and amongst the police officers there were some more high-ranking officers, which again was something we hadn't seen before. The police were most insistent that we remained on the other side of the road, and issued us for the very first time with a Section 14 notice.
All the way through. This is Sussex Police notice that under Section 14 of the Public Order Act 1986, I have taken notice that the place public assembly is being held.
It seems there was certainly a change of tactics when they started to rely on Section 14 to try and restrict protest activity outside EDO, and there were a number of occasions around that time then when people received these notices, and on one occasion there was only 2 people there and they received a notice under Section 14 of the Public Order Act in an attempt to restrict where they should protest.
Why are you standing there with your camera filming a private meeting which is obviously private? No thank you. No thank you. Why are you provoking this meeting, officer?
The assembly will be confined to the opposite side of the road.
In hindsight, that was quite significant because the terms of the Section 14 order were very similar to the injunction that they were asking for, and we received that just a few days after the
Side of the road, please. You have been warned if you fail to comply, you're liable to arrest. On that bank there.
And that's when people started to be threatened with arrest, and people were actually arrested.
It gets to a point when you have to draw a line, and the line has to be drawn between what we call civil disobedience, which is probably okay, and intimidatory harassment, which isn't.
The moment the 3 arrests were made on the day of the weapons inspection, there was telephone communication between Chief Inspector Kerry Cox and Timothy Lawson-Cruttenden. It was the following day after that that Mr Lawson-Cruttenden issued the proceedings in the High Court.
No one was prepared for what in fact happened.
Legitimate protest or outright harassment. A British arms manufacturer is accusing anti-war activists of intimidating its employees with similar tactics used by animal rights extremists against scientists.
The tactics are the same. Yeah. I mean, and a lot of these groups are very modelled on the RA.
I think it was a definite strategy of EDO and their lawyers to say this case is just like the animal rights protesters.
EDO MBM, which makes weapons parts, is seeking a High Court injunction tomorrow to stop the protesters getting near its plant.
The thing was that most of us involved in the campaign had never even heard of these things until it happened.
Legal papers shown for the first time to Channel 4 News allege a deliberate hate campaign against staff, but that is strongly denied by the protesters.
For 14 months now we have had demonstrations outside our premises, many of which have gone beyond what I consider to be reasonable.
Everybody had ever been arrested at EDO at any of the blockades, whether they've been found guilty or not guilty. They all received in the post 3 huge lever arch files of evidence.
The directors at EDO will turn to the High Court tomorrow, citing the Protection Against Harassment Act, a law commonly used against stalkers. They're seeking an exclusion zone around the factory in Brighton and around the homes of their employees.
Now, when does lawful protest become intimidation?
Timothy Lawson-Cruttenden was involved in drafting, in giving advice in drafting the Protection from Harassment Act.
I suppose under this Act, and the way we've developed the law on this Act, is to take civil disobedience, which is okay, and ask the court to make it contempt.
What Timothy Lawson-Cruttenden, obviously had thought this out all along, was able to do was to basically define corporations as people, and bring about the idea that protesters were effectively stalking a corporation.
We've suffered from regularly noise protests once a week rather. That involves banging a drum, banging pots and pans, shouting at our staff when they leave at the end of their day.
What I think is significant about the Harassment Act is that the injunctions under the Act have a criminal power of arrest. First thing, which is quite novel.
The aim of these injunctions is to create these areas where if you don't obey that, then the police can just arrest you.
The injunction that was sought by EDO went way beyond drawing the balance between lawful and unlawful conduct.
EDO were asking for an exclusion zone of half a mile around the factory, which protesters couldn't enter. And remember, you know, a protester could be anybody, anybody that EDO deemed to be a protester.
So, for example, it had the consequence that one of the people who'd been involved in the protests over a long period of time wouldn't have been able to actually go to his own home. It's as crazy as that.
The injunction would only have allowed 10 or less people every Thursday afternoon for 2 hours to demonstrate silently outside the factory.
Their intention was that it would apply to absolutely everybody.
An injunction against the world.
The entire basis that the injunction was being brought against us was wrong, because it took away our right to protest.
I mean, is it not a dangerous area, though, of restricting protest?
No, I don't think so. I think we fully accept everybody's right to protest. Fortunately, we live in a democracy, and that's one of people's rights.
EDO MBM, a company in Brighton that makes parts for the defence industry, has been granted an exclusion zone around its premises.
The High Court has told protesters that
Judge Gross, who was presiding over this hearing, said freedom of expression is a right jealously guarded in English law, and he didn't allow most of the terms of the injunction.
What was originally a law that was designed to protect people from stalkers became basically a charter for corporations to get a sort of form of PFI martial law outside their premises, and it meant that demonstrations became confined to this narrow strip of grass that bordered a big drop onto a railway line.
Right, they're going to try and impose this interim injunction, and it's nonsense, and it restricts our freedom to protest, and we're not going to have any of it.
In the lead up to when the interim injunction came into force, protests had grown against EDO MBM. People had heard about the interim injunction, and people were very angry about it.
We held a demonstration and it was billed as the big one, and it certainly was a big one.
The intention was to really give the injunction a good hiding by the protesters.
We knew that the order for the interim injunction had finally been signed and that it was going to come into place, but we weren't sure about what the effects of that order was going to be.
So we started at the bottom of the hill that led up to the factory.
So we set off on the grass verge a bit further back.
At that point, this man appears
with another man filming him.
He looked a bit funny. He had this little moustache.
The bald head,
monkey suit.
He's obviously not a policeman.
Order number 1, serve. What's this? Who are you, sir? Order number 2, serve.
Nobody knew what was going on. He didn't discuss his role.
We're the Indie Media Newswire. Who are you, sir?
He then started going round.
Order number 1 served, order number 2 served.
Order number 4, serve. Tell us who you are.
People didn't know who this man was. Most people thought he was a policeman or he was an officer of the court, a bailiff, something like that. They had no idea who he was or what he was trying to do, and they had no idea what was going to happen.
From the outset, some people said, no, I'm not taking that, I'm not having anything to do with it.
These were the injunctions.
Serving an injunction consists of touching someone with a piece of paper. Doesn't matter if they understand it or read it or know what it is. Just that they've been touched by the piece of paper.
Slap. Served.
The idea of that was that once it's served on people, they then, in theory, know what the injunction is, and so breaking it then becomes a crime.
The way he did it was aggressive, but it was funny because a lot of people were just running away from him, and he was too slow to catch up with them.
It all looked very ludicrous. As far as we were concerned, this great big bald thug was just wandering around assaulting people.
If that touches you, it's been served. It is your property. Number 13, served.
How many numbers do you know? And he's harassing people.
While I'm standing here, if I had seen an assault, I would have dealt with it. I didn't see an assault.
People asked the police who this man was who was trying to serve these bits of paper on them and weren't given that information.
Serving it on you, so your property. If anyone...
We later found out that this was Mark Lynch, one of the top dogs for Guardian Guard security.
But this was kind of what would become one of the regular themes at these demonstrations.
Being punched in the chest in the guise of being served with an injunction.
That's kind of set the tone for Mark Lynch, the wonderful Mark Lynch, who then continued in that vein for many months.
This probably should have been a taste of things to come.
The march moved off and people walked up Home Farm Road and marched up to the factory like they had done many times before.
Were really quite passionate because this was, as it was the first time the injunction had been put in force, this was a kind of test of, the will of the protesters versus the strength of the police.
And there was, in fact, quite a massive police presence up there.
Police vans kept arriving, just more and more police vans.
The policing tactics radically changed on that day.
It's Operation Spock. It's Tuesday 31st of May 2005. Time on watch is 13:15 hours. Video operators PC Shredder CS791. Comms operator is
PC Davis, Delta 052.
Very soon it was apparent that the policing of the demonstration was going to be very aggressive.
Camera on.
Yeah.
The guy with the black wig spoken to two officers now, I believe with a foreign accent. Not sure what the accent is.
People could hear the police talking about people here they were singling out.
Lady in sunglasses on the right with the two stripes. She's often on op-rook demos. Don't recognise the other female.
He's number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah, he's number 12. This number 12 is present when the warnings were given. And he's still on the wrong side of the road.
It does appear that they also had a strategy of targeting particular individuals.
Tattoo on his left hand, I can't see what it is. One on the chin. Big on the left hand. He's thrown on the floor. They tried to serve him.
Can I just say this to those of you that are prepared to listen to me, that there is an injunction in force. The injunction says you must be on that side of the road. If you refuse to clear the road, then you are liable to be arrested for obstruction of the highway. So I'd ask you please to stay off the road and stay on the grass verge.
We were told that we had to stay on the verge.
We were instructed to stand on the grass verge.
Which actually wasn't very easy at times because the verge was very narrow.
But there were so many people that naturally we just spilled onto the road.
It was really, really quite difficult to stay on the verge.
So there was loads of people there and they were trying to squish them all onto the grass verge, which just wasn't going to happen.
But it was not a safe situation.
The orders given by the police were not audible anyway.
And then obviously whoever was in charge decided that the police authority was not stamped heavily enough on this demonstration, that they should really show us who was boss.
They formed a kind of military cordon.
Police closed in.
And the police were just marching up and down to make sure that no one had their foot on the pavement.
For a while there was a bit of back and forth and the police were being aggressive and surly.
They looked really tense and wound up.
They began trying to physically push people back onto the grass verge.
People were pushed back, refused to be moved.
It was really quite dangerous.
They were pushing people towards the little barrier that prevents you from falling into the railway line.
And any type of freedom of movement on that road is completely taken away from you.
Everyone stay on the path, come off the flash, because of obstruction of the highway, you will be arrested. Move on to the path. How does it feel to be doing this, officer? What do you think? What do you think about your role as protector of war criminals?
Then they just surged forward.
Snatch squad.
Cat got pulled out of the group by the police and thrown to the floor in front of the demonstration.
Just like piled him to the ground and then dragged him away.
First I was arrested, then there was another individual shortly after.
I was arrested because I went to the aid of my father. I was immediately grabbed and pulled out from the crowd and carted off myself. My father was 80 at the time.
From that point, there was just a huge scrum.
In the chaos that ensued, people were falling over, people were falling basically into a pile on the grass verge and trying not to fall into the railway tracks.
There was pushing the police forwards and there was pushing backwards, and I remember someone fell over the barrier.
How nobody fell over the edge, I don't know. I would say we were very lucky that day.
And it was really, really scary.
Some people became frightened, and there was some pushing from the crowd.
Then when the crowd started getting this angry, then it was just open season for them. Any excuse for them to arrest anybody.
It was a mess. It was a complete mess.
People were arrested for assault police, basically for refusing to be pushed onto a railway track.
Did you get assaulted?
I was actually charged with assaulting a police officer and obstructing another.
I was arrested for assault police, basically for being in that chaotic situation.
This is the same one. What are you doing? This is the same man that assaulted Keith Jackson earlier.
When he was assaulting an 80-year-old man. You're arrested for assault on police, you understand that? You have to say, if it may harm defence, not mention with questions, subject to later right court. You say they're giving you evidence, you understand that? Okay, thank you.
They formed this rank of people, of police, shoulder to shoulder.
People were angry. People were really angry.
And you came along, officers of the law, and decided that you were assault protesters who were demonstrating peacefully. You tried to push us over a cliff, and one of your officers said to me, "Oh, that's quite a big drop. You didn't get a warning before you came here to say that if you push people over this fence, they might die. You just thought you'd push anyway on for that. Well, it's not fucking good enough."
To this day, I'm still amazed that nobody was killed.
We haven't come here to cause you trouble, but what you've done here has caused us an immense amount of trouble.
What possessed the police to basically charge a crowd of people on the edge of a 50-foot drop, I will never know.
Several people are now pursuing complaints and civil actions against the police.
And what are you doing here anyway? You've come here as officers of the law to support the biggest criminals in this country. People who should stand in trial under international law for complicity with war crimes.
There's certainly a case for the police to answer, to explain how and why their tactics changed on that occasion and how they came to target the particular people they did for arrest.
The people who were arrested on that day, finally it ended up being 8 people, were almost all people who were involved in some way in the High Court injunction proceedings.
It's quite clear that the people they were arresting were also people that had already been named on the injunction.
Those people were arrested to order.
And they arrested people for some quite serious charges.
Definitely convictions for any kind of violence or assault, which is what most people were arrested for, assault police, would definitely have strengthened the idea that we were a violent campaign who would stop at nothing to hurt the workers. I think that having those convictions would have been very useful to them.
Every time they arrested someone, they would pass the information to the lawyers of EDO in the injunction case.
I think that the effect of those arrests provided EDO with a case that they didn't have previously of actual harassment.
At the end of the day, when the interim injunction was imposed, the judge allowed protest to continue in a sense unrestricted, but it was confined to the grass verge opposite EDO MBM.
Haven't got any weapons, just come here to exercise my right of protest. You understand that? It's a right which has been granted us by the High Court.
If you literally stepped off this grass verge, which was only 2 metres in width, onto the road, even 1 foot, you would be liable to be arrested and you would be liable to be remanded immediately.
Would you mind staying up on the verge, sir? You've read the order.
To walk along this road.
Right, you've actually read the order time and time again. You're in breach of the order. Are you aware of that? No, you're not. That's correct.
To walk along this road.
Okay, you would be in breach of the order.
I do actually think that probably the judge, when he put that clause in, didn't realise how small the grass verge was. I think benefit of the doubt that he wouldn't have said that had he realised how dangerous it was.
And he really didn't understand the location or anything like that. So the judge didn't know what he was doing when he gave these terms.
I'm serving court orders for you.
How come he can film me but I can't film him?
Because I've just served you with the order that says so.
However, he did accept that we shouldn't film.
Which actually put us in a very vulnerable position because it then meant that we couldn't actually film any actions by the police, or more significantly any actions by security guards.
It meant that this goon could run around and basically assault them with us not being able to produce any evidence that he'd done so.
I think Mark Lynch was employed by Guidance Security, and Guidance Security were contracted by EDO to provide security for them, and during the injunction they were supposed to be implementing the terms of the injunction, which meant that they had to go around handing out, or Mark Lynch had to hand out these bits of paper.
Whilst the injunction was in force, he was kind of obviously taking great delight in this kind of this increase in his powers.
Really enjoyed the authority of it, really enjoyed being able to serve this very official looking injunction on people.
But he went far beyond that. His job was not just merely to make people aware of the injunction, which obviously everybody was aware of anyway, but was to actively intimidate.
His general kind of attitude is making it quite personal. He wants to get people.
Yeah, he was pretty keen to make sure people got these bits of paper.
He had to have a sort of mate to film him doing this, limited evidence of people being served with the injunctions.
Right, it's recording now, Mark.
Turn the video recorder.
It's recording.
See that button up there?
Yeah.
Right. One's in.
One's out.
And one's out. Alright. Present to serve the orders today is myself, Mark Lynch, and John Bradley and Tony Reader. So right now it should say stand by, yeah? No, now you record. I hope you've recorded it.
Yeah, I've recorded it.
Right, come with me, John. Do you want to start filming then, Mike?
Yeah.
I do not wish this strange man to touch me.
125 served.
The employees of the company were designated protected people, so they were not supposed to be filmed.
And the protected person within the definition of the injunction included a security guard.
Who kind of took full advantage of the situation of not being able to be filmed.
Now this placed the protesters outside EDO in an extremely difficult situation.
How can we record your instructions for evidential purposes when if he records you, it's a breach of the injunction?
The minute we pointed them in the direction of the building or any of the employees, we ran the risk of being arrested for breach of the injunction.
432, if you'd like to read that.
What is it?
You will be arrested if you carry on filming.
So people did used to go and try to respect as much as possible the terms of the inter-injunction while still filming, and that meant a lot of people taking cameras and turning them only on the, away from the factory and towards the demonstrators. But that was always a difficult round, and people used to have to argue the toss over that.
He hasn't been videoing. He's been videoing, not him. He's been videoing. Right, has he had the video camera out?
He has had the video camera out.
Handled it, it's not been on.
And people used to take fake cameras up there, made out of cardboard boxes, and people would just come and really push that. It was something that we argued a lot in court and tried to make the judge aware of the danger that we were in because of this rule. And
in fact, the first time a security guard was being very obnoxious, somebody took out a video camera to record it, because as should have happened. And he found himself arrested by the police and spent a week in remand in Lewes prison.
Paul Robinson was acting as a legal observer on that day, filming the actions of the security staff. The security guard involved went over and seized his camera.
He called the police, he got them up there, and then got the police to arrest me, which they did, carrying out his orders.
The breach being that he was filming a protected person outside EDO. While we were in the police station, Chief Inspector Kerry Cox intervened. There was a telephone call from her, and she said, in effect, that it was right that he should be detained for breach of the High Court injunction. And ultimately that's what he was charged with. He spent several days in custody at Lewes prison before a Crown Court judge finally granted him bail.
I didn't have a chance to see my solicitor when I was in there at all.
Now, he should never have been in custody. He wasn't even named in the injunction.
It's an absolute disgrace that EDO can hire people and put them under the terms of the injunction and get them to be protected persons. That these people are protected persons, and what they're doing is harassment themselves.
The campaign got a lot more momentum and also became very creative.
Obviously, no matter how angry you get, your pencils are as a works of art and not for throwing at people, video cameraing you whilst you have no right to do the same to them.
There was a life drawing exhibition, I guess taking inspiration from the sort of courtroom pictures where you're not allowed to film in court or take photos in court, so there are artists that draw pictures of the scene, and essentially that's what people did.
People just brought pens and pads and just drew the factory and drew the employees and the cars and the security guard and everything, because you can't stop someone from drawing.
But we always tried to use a little bit of humour, more to keep ourselves going, but also to try and make the point in lots of different levels.
There was a day of action called Carry On Up the Injunction, where protesters dressed as Mark Lynch.
It was basically worth it for the moment where Mark Lynch had to serve injunction papers on several Mark Lynches. It was a particularly good moment.
Okay, all under control.
It was clowning. It was, it was a vicious parody of him.
The whole farce of being confined, and it was a farce being confined to the grass verge. People regularly went up there and Eventually, the attitude of the security became, the level of intimidation was ramped up.
Do you want to video the kids? I'm not going to serve the children because of obviously their age, but if you can just video the kids.
And he even handcuffed one demonstrator, which is completely illegal.
If you read that, that just tells you what you're allowed to. I've noticed your handcuffs there. That's correct. Are you a policeman? If there's a breach of peace up here or a breach of the order, I will follow through with an arrest. All right.
Jaya, who was assaulted by security guards, who then trumped up a charge against him, which the police immediately bought, and they recommended that he should be remanded in custody.
When I went to leave the protest, I came across a pile of the court injunctions, which are basically A4 pieces of paper. And I looked at them and picked them up, and then I ripped them up. There's no crime in ripping them up, so I ripped them. And then the security suddenly approached me and said, if you rip that anymore, we're going to arrest you. And I thought, well, I'm not actually committing any offence by ripping them, so I ripped them in half.
Help! Help! Wait! Help! Sorry!
And the next thing I know, I was a couple of them twisting my arms behind my back and trying to put handcuffs on me.
You get a camera out, you're going to get jumped by him and his goons. Jumped. You hear that? Arrested. Unlawful arrest. You haven't got the right to arrest people in that fashion. You have to stand up in court and justify the assault on a member of the public who did nothing. How are you going to do that?
Mark Lynch is one, he's obviously one of these people who failed the entrance exam for the police and became a security guard.
If you go around the other side, Tone, and just fucking open the driver's side and get that key out, it's in there. No, driver's side, yeah. Pellet. Right, just in that hole, that first hole there. There you go. Yeah.
Lovely. Got blood on these ones, mate.
Eh?
Got blood on these. What's with these then? Is that the locks?
Yeah, that's the lock ones, yeah. So, yeah, and what I do...
That's better actually.
They are.
That's actually
they are a lot better. Yeah, that's
there,
right. Yeah, they are. They're a hell of a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah, that is better.
Yeah.
Once you've done it, that's it.
I've also... This pepper spray stuff you can't use because obviously it's classed as firearms. But they've got one out that they tried at the Nick, which is called Bounce.
Alright.
Comes in a black holder. And it's got the old, it's got the coil on it, and it clips on there, and it's proper stuff, and it's bounce. And basically, it's the same stuff, but it's not classified as a firearms and that. Do you want one? You can have one for nothing, because I've got some. I'll whip some from the Nick to give it a try. Right, when are you in tomorrow?
Wait, I thought you were going to arrest me.
No. Although technically I can now because, because you're on the wrong side of the road.
Well, we were being bullied by the police and the security outside EDO, who were trying to provoke us into... they were trying to provoke us into violence, they were trying to provoke us into arrestable offences. They weren't letting us film what they were doing. So what happened was we took the campaign into town, we brought the campaign into the centre of town.
Churchill Square, the centre of Brighton Clock Tower, was like the other arm. It was the other support. We had to get it focused, not just round the factory, but it had to be focused in the centre of Brighton.
It was necessary to build a kind of critical mass of sort of local concern about what was happening.
The intention of the march was to peacefully march through Brighton and to raise awareness.
And the August demo that we had was just ridiculous. I think there was about 40 people, maybe less, that tried to, walk with a banner down the street, and they were surrounded by police helicopters, tens of policemen. The road was blocked with police dogs. It was ridiculous.
We hardly got like 50 metres down North Street before they cordoned it all off.
And it was here that Sussex Police basically put on a bit of street theatre.
Good afternoon, I'm the police commander for this event. I'm going to impose a direction on you. If you be quiet, you might hear me.
Who cordoned off the demonstration in North Street and issued a order under Section 12 of the Public Order Act saying that the demonstration couldn't continue.
Is there an organiser for this event that can come forward?
There was a lot of pushing and shoving and a lot of like sly digs from the police, you know, sly punches and pushes.
There were children in pushchairs crying, and it was one of those really nasty ones again.
I got quite angry and started arguing with a lot of the police officers.
And then they pulled out people to arrest again, the kind of snatch squad style.
I just got grabbed from behind, no warning at all. Just got dragged off to a police van. I got bruises all up my arms from where they just basically dragged me by my arms to the van. I was 17 at the time.
Once again, poor old John Catt was arrested again.
I couldn't even hear what I was arrested for at the time.
Sir, arrestation and breach of Section 12 order.
And they made a whole ugly scene, the police. They disgraced themselves.
And they arrested Chris again for the use of a megaphone.
Chris, again. I honestly feel if ever the police are after me, if I get out a 6-foot life-size photograph of Chris and throw it away, it'll jump on it and I can run away.
They were caught on camera really violently assaulting other people as well.
I think they wanted to kind of make us seem like, you know, they wanted to like criminalise the campaign, but instead they actually ended up just showing their true colours, you know, they just showed the public on a busy Saturday near Churchill Square what thugs they actually are.
This signalled the start really of a confrontation which would go on in Brighton for a couple of years about whether or not people had to notify and negotiate with the police before they could gather in their city centre.
But certainly at that stage they did seem to feel they had the right to ban protests in Brighton.
At the next demonstration, which was organised against a factory in town, the police wrote to people who they perceived to be organisers of the march, saying that if no notification was given to Sussex Police, then organisers of the demonstration could be prosecuted.
I'd like to notify this officer that there are no organisers of this There are no organisers of this procession.
And there was an ongoing struggle here. The police were trying to enforce a situation where all demonstrations had to be given permission by the police to go ahead.
And they were very big on getting us to negotiate with them, ask permission to demonstrate in our own town. The fact is, under the law, we don't have to ask permission.
Our whole point is freedom of expression and freedom of assembly, and we don't think it is freedom of assembly if you have to ask permission from the authorities first. We think that the right to, you know, as the community, you have the right to march through your own community and to make political points in your own town.
The previous demonstration had been repressed and stamped on by Sussex Police and that because of that we needed to have a huge presence at the next demonstration in order to take back our right to protest.
The next time we marched into town, we had nearly 400 people.
Last time we were here, we tried to peacefully march down that road over there, and these gangsters in yellow jackets stopped us from peacefully marching.
Despite having not asked permission from police, having very widely advertised in local media that we hadn't asked permission from the police, we were able to force the march through.
So we started marching down, and they completely surrounded us in this kind of mobile kettle. All of the people on the street were really taking notice. They just stopped, got their cameras out, loads of people got their cameras out and were taking photos of us, and people were saying what's going on. They wanted to know what had happened and were really interested. So they never did that sort of demonstration again because they must have realised they just drew loads of attention to us.
Because people had come out in defiance of the police's attempt to control people's access to gather in their city, they weren't able to repress the march in the way that they'd done before.
And I think that was a very important stroke, a very, very important blow struck there for civil liberties in Brighton.
So a year in court kind of ensued. Our defence was, number one, that the use of the Protection from Harassment Act in the way that it was being used was a misuse of the law.
Around December time, we'd put in several applications about the conduct of their lawyers.
What Mr Lawson-Cruttenden did was try to obtain large amounts of disclosure from the police about defendants and witnesses in the court case.
It's a very sad reflection on our society that protest groups not only target the opposition, they start targeting the opposition's lawyers.
And this is around the time that I think they started to rethink what they'd done. There was this huge legal team costing thousands of pounds, consisting of Lawson-Cruttenden, of Queen's Counsel, and of another firm of solicitors called LeBeuf and Lamb. And there was me and Lorna on the other side. The judge ruled that Lawson-Cruttenden had abused the process of the court, and that there had been serious misconduct in the court case.
Well, I mean, I can't really comment on that, mate, because it's the subject of a complaint. So I mean, I can't say either way.
Well, basically, we won. The injunction case was overturned. The interim injunction lasted until March 2006, from I guess May 2005, so almost a year.
I'm going to serve you with that, which is the court order. That the injunction now only applies to 5 named defendants.
Thank you very much.
Served.
Lovely.
Any comment? Any comment?
Not at all.
The injunction, which has been released for the last 11 months, now only applies to 5 named defendants.
Right, I'm totally aware of that.
Okay.
I'm totally...
Served.
Excuse me. Oh, come here. I am aware of the injunction. I don't need to be told by you. Now go away, demonstrate peacefully, everybody's happy. Okay?
But not you.
The police have refused to investigate themselves
as to whether they colluded with the company. Big surprise.
I do not have to explain to you, and I will not have... You can't explain, I will not have pieces of paper shoved through my van. Go away.
You can't really form a partnership with the police because that would be unconstitutional, because they're meant to be what they call the referees in society.
They don't have obligations to assist private litigants in obtaining injunctions. That's not their purpose, that's not their role. And where it comes to confidential material gathered in the context of criminal prosecutions, they can only disclose that, in my view, with an order of the court.
More and more evidence came out that there was close communication between the police and EDO's lawyers.
Well, that's what the protesters say, and they'll always say that, won't they?
So what do you think of the EDO campaign? I mean, it's obviously gathered.
What do you mean? You're not going to comment on whether I agree with it or disagree with it.
Well, it's up to you.
No, that wouldn't be fair, because we're not there to take sides.
The police admitted that they didn't want to police the protests anymore. A statement was made saying that there were financial implications in policing the ongoing protests, which is one of the reasons why the police sought to support the injunction. But EDO needed arrests. They needed a stronger injunction.
Around the time of the crumbling of the injunction, the cases which had been brought against campaigners during the time the injunction was in place began to crumble as well.
At that time, there were cases ongoing against 13 defendants, and as a result of representations we made to the Crown Prosecution Service, all cases were discontinued against all defendants on all charges.
And this all started because in January 2006, 3 protesters had their case in court.
The starting point was the weapons inspection case, and in that case was listed for a 3-day trial, and we'd managed to get disclosure via the High Court of the line of correspondence and communications between Timothy Lawson-Cruttenden and a senior police officer. Now, we had Mr. Lawson-Cruttenden's version, and we were seeking the police equivalent of those documents. If you like, if we've got record of one phone call, then where's the other side of it?
The prosecution said that this evidence attracted public interest immunity and shouldn't be disclosed.
It's a sort of law that's applied to informants in perhaps in drugs cases, where the Crown will seek to withhold information because they want to protect the identity of the informant.
There then ensued a public interest immunity hearing, which is closed.
And what happened in this case is the judge took the view that there was material that the Crown claimed attracted public interest immunity, but that the defence should have. As a consequence of that, the Crown offered no evidence against the defendants rather than disclose that material. So they didn't want to disclose it, so they dropped the case.
This evidence, this phantom evidence, became a kind of magic tool.
As a follow-on from that, knowing that there was material that the Crown didn't want to disclose, we made an application for all of the other cases.
The cases just sort of, there was like a domino effect, one after the other, they all just sort of fell down.
The case against Jaya for ABH and breach of a civil injunction was dropped, and the case against Paul for breach of a civil injunction was also dropped.
There was then the 8 arrests on the 31st of May. All cases were discontinued by the Crown prior to trial.
I received a letter saying that the police didn't consider that my continuing prosecution was in the public interest, which strikes me as quite surprising if they really thought that I'd assaulted a police officer.
It's very unusual. I mean, it's certainly one of the cases, one of the last cases to be discontinued in the Crown Court. A schedule of cases was handed up, and the Crown Court judge commented that he had never come across anything like that, to have so many cases discontinued. We will never know what that information is that the Crown sought to withhold, but clearly it was important enough that they hold on to it that they dropped the cases.
This whole legal attack on the campaign just crumbled, and EDO and the police were left with nothing really from a whole year of attempting to repress protest outside the factory.
Here are the names of the people that you've been involved in the death of. We will read them out throughout the course of this demonstration. Just think as you're hearing these names, these are people who your work has helped to kill. These are people with families and lives and bloods and whatever, and that's what you're involved in. And you are directly involved in the deaths of these people.
Ali Shakir Abdel Hassan, 4 years old, killed by a missile on the 22nd of March 2003. Ali Jassim, 10 years old, killed by a missile on the 25th of March 2003. Abdullah Yassin, 52, killed by a missile, 27th of March 2003. Ali Kamil Al-Masawi, 13, killed by a missile, 28th of March 2003. Ahmed Khalaf Badawi, 27, killed by cluster bomb, 7th of April 2003. Ali Hussein Musa, 73, killed by missile, 21st of March 2003.
Samar Hussein, he was 13 and he was killed by a missile in March 2003. When a missile struck the parents' farm in an area roughly 30 miles from Baghdad. She was in the kitchen when the missile landed and the explosion was close enough for shrapnel to cut through the house's stone walls and slice into Samara's stomach. Samara's mother Hamida told The Independent she just fell. I could see blood coming from her stomach. She was gasping, "Mama, Mama."
Lightweight system of missiles that you manufacture integral components for was the most used munition in the aerial bombardment of Iraq, which saw the deaths of nearly 100,000 civilians.
That's why we're here. That's why we're not going away. That's why we fought the injunction, and that's why we won it.
We are winning. We are not going anywhere until this factory closes down.
We know that components made in this factory are sold to the US, and the US went into Somalia in January and bombed civilians. We've come here to shut EDO down, and that's what we aim to do. Because we think that you as human beings in there, you as human beings don't actually like the suffering that you see on your TV screens. That you must know what happens. And therefore we've come here to remind you of that, hoping that you might have a little bit of conscience left.
We are the Brighton Home Citizens Weapons Inspectors Team, EDO MBM. We have come to inspect your premises because we believe that you are manufacturing weapons components that are being used in an illegal and immoral war, which has claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people in Iraq. The police have no legal power to move us.
You're on the premises, can you move on?
The police are...
Excuse me, don't do that. Do what? You were pushing.
And it. Yeah, that's
450.
450. And we're going to be here for a good while.
What time did you get up this morning?
Don't ask. Good morning.
What time is it though?
I don't know, it's offensive o'clock in the morning.
Are you trying to get into EDO?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's closed today, so...
Why is the factory closed today? Don't you work for a living? Do you work for a living? I work for a living.
No, it's concrete. Concreted. It's concreted. All of it. Yeah, you can't move it.
Here's the southern gate. We've got one concrete into the main gate to allow access, and we've got one chap who's bicycle chained himself to the gate, stopping people getting in.
What you're doing here is grubby and disgusting, and we will not tolerate it. You should be ashamed to show your faces in Brighton. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You should be ashamed to tell people what you do for a living, because what you do is disgusting. And everybody in Brighton knows about it.
I think very quickly the management told the workers not to communicate with us because there wasn't very much give and take between us and the workers. You know, we would try to talk to them and they wouldn't answer us, and they, we have found out from people that have done temp work there that they've been told not to communicate with us.
They didn't even kind of swear at us or say sod off really at the beginning. They just looked really kind of spooked about it, and they just sort of hurried in.
What you found is there was quite a lot of people that just hadn't realised what the company was doing, was really surprised that suddenly there were people, that cared enough to demonstrate.
At least 2 of the workers resigned in just this early period.
I've no doubt that the factory have got a very serious recruitment problem because people now know what they do. And their friends and family know what EDO do.
Just imagine what it might be like to really see massacred dead bodies of the people that you know, you care about and you love. Maybe you should think about that before you go into work and build bombs.
If you, say, mention family or friends and how they'd feel if their family or friends were, caught in the middle of a war, then that often strikes a chord, and you can see people's faces, and they do.
The employees they've got left are kind of the hardcore, and they're dedicated to their jobs and their careers and their wages. You can sort of sense the animosity of them. As the cars leave, there's you'll see like 2-fingered salutes, or people swear at you occasionally.
Those people have fought for you, you wanker.
Some people will close their car windows and drive off as quickly as possible. Some people will smile with their windows wide open and drive off slowly as if to wind us up.
And some of them really hate us, some of them are quite aggressive.
Because we're proud of what we do, Sunshine.
You're proud? You are proud of it?
Proud, mate.
Well, shame upon you.
Shame?
Yes, absolute shame.
Have you got a grandfather?
Yes, I have.
Did he fight in the war?
No, he didn't, thankfully.
Yes, he must have been.
But what's it going to do with bombing passing in
You're no better than a conscientious objector, Sunshine.
Yes, I am.
So there is obviously a lot of anger on their part, but it doesn't come out very often towards us. Apart from sometimes when we do the lock-ons and the demos, people have been attacked by workers, people have had their D-locks pulled. I mean, I'd like to think that some of it is guilt. I think that people who work at places like EDO manage to do what they do by not thinking about it, and I think they probably get quite angry with us because we try to make them think about it.
Alright, plenty of work in Brighton.
Because it's people like you that make people think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you so thinking's wrong, is it? Is thinking wrong?
That whole get a job, dole scrounging scum does come out from them. I think they classify us and they find it easier to hate us in that way.
We're doing a job, Sunshine. We're doing a job. What job are you doing, mate? What job do you do?
All sorts of fucking different.
Do you?
You can't say get a job stuff went out in the 60s.
If you're not a very introverted person, being tried to force to look into what you're doing and how you earn your money and your life is quite uncomfortable.
They probably were a bit scared of us because we had a completely different worldview from them, and that we were willing to spend our spare time sitting there telling them about it.
Can you really wake up tomorrow morning and seriously think that possibly I might not go to work today because I'm responsible for the death of people? And we're not just talking about armies, we're talking about innocent people, civilians, women, children. Don't you all know about it? How dare you do that? This is very real.
Anyone that probably has recognised that guilt in themselves have just left. But yeah, the people that has taken a longer time to think about it probably are now getting just angry with it just going on and on.
Tell you now, stay off our property. Don't push me on the bike or you'll be in trouble.
Oh, well, really? Yeah.
Yes.
It's that sort of thing you have to do to get to work, isn't it?
Sorry?
This is what you joined the police for?
No, I joined the police to save people's lives and help people, not to stand up here wasting my time, but unfortunately that's what I'm doing.
You're protecting people who are killing people.
I'm doing my job, love.
keeping the Queen's peace.
Sussex and Brighton police understand that theatrical forms of protest are an interesting way and an effective way of protesting. I'm not against that.
Very early on, I think the police were sort of just hoping that this would be another flash in the pan, that there'll be a few demonstrations and then the whole thing would kind of fold.
And thank God it's only for the day.
When it became obvious that wouldn't happen, that's when the police really started, you know, really trying their best to nick people. Really trying their best to kind of, you know, hurt people.
In public, to a lot of people, the police have shown themselves for what they are.
Why are you following us?
I just want to tell you.
Why are we following?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been instructed to.
Why? Is that it?
They use every tactic in the book to either get round us or to put us out of business.
If we all went shopping, would you follow us around the shop? Write down what we bought.
Well, what happens if we split up?
Well, there's three different ways.
We're only after only following one.
Which one? Well, why don't you just save us our time and tell us who?
Why do you personally think you're following me?
You've actually created a demonstration
The
there.
political question is harsh, it's too much. They're too aligned with, they should be unbiased, but they're too aligned with EDO MBM.
The police essentially will decide they don't like someone and then they'll try and find a law that gives them the excuse to arrest that person.
Well, we're not experts.
No, I know that. Could you confirm that again?
We're not experts.
The camp was there, I think, just to open up the campaign maybe for the community and for people all over the country actually as well. And there were children there. It was a wonderful, peaceful camp.
Don't pour it over me.
Just pour it over me.
How do you think you're playing
What's up with you? What on earth are you doing?
And they basically handed out letters of eviction to every single tent that was there.
Do you have intentions of going up to the peace camp?
I did.
You did. May I just show you this, sir? It basically informs you that it's an offence to erect a tent in parks and open spaces in the city of Brighton and Hove without permission.
Spaces in the city of Brighton and Hove.
You will be given until 2:30 to remove all the structures situated within this area.
It's the thing they stuck onto our down there earlier. It's going to burn out.
This is a protest. It's been advertised as a protest, and that's what it is at the moment.
This is what I think of police.
So you're admitting that this is a political eviction?
It's not a political eviction, it's a protest, of which you're protesting and you're not going to be staying.
And then after that they come back an hour later and just dismantled everybody's tents. Everything, all of our belongings were inside and they just literally took up everything, all the tents.
So can you just move away please while we do this?
They arrested our belongings, took them to the police station and held them for like a week.
Support us more and more, and I don't believe these people are a human being. I don't convince in this
idea, and I believe if we connect to doing this, they must remove. And thanks all this group, it's amazing things. It's really amazing things. Thank you, guys.
Recently the situation's changed and suddenly, although nothing's happened from the point of view of the protesters, it's still the same people going out there, but suddenly there were 7 or 8 police going out there and they were filming the protesters every week. So, you know, I believe the police have probably kind of come up with another strategy to use kind of existing public order offences, and they've tried to use a bylaw up there as well.
He's been reported under the bylaw for the noise that he's making.
The bylaw?
Yes.
This? Just him?
Just him at the moment, yes.
Yeah. Come on. No one else, just him?
No, just this one at the moment, yes.
Obviously all the injunction terms have been removed, but the police are back to using the old public order laws. People are now getting threatened with Section 5. They've just trotted out a local bylaw which prohibits the use of amplified music, which they're trying to use against people who talk on the megaphone or use a sound system up there.
Just going to say now that obviously if this does cause any disturbance, unnecessary disturbance, then I will invoke the bylaw with regards to the confiscation of the equipment as evidence with regards to reporting whoever may or may not have, been involved in setting up this equipment.
What bylaw is that?
The Brighton Hove bylaw. I'll give you a copy. That one after 4 years. Would you like a copy?
I'd love one.
There you go, sir.
Well, I know we are not the only group to receive police harassment. The Smash EDO group has had 15 arrests on trumped-up charges since August alone. The crimes as diverse as karaoke singing.
The equipment will be seized and the people who permitted it to be used and organised will be arrested. And Inspector Conduct, that is what will happen. We are the champions, no time for losing. We are the champions of the world. Thank you, Mr. Paul.
If you can take all the sound equipment. Okay, so all of this. Nothing better to do, boys.
No crime in Brighton. What about seizing all that stuff in there?
He's on illegal arrest.
Why do you pick on him? Why not anybody else?
So they're grasping at straws again to try and find some way to stop freedom of expression and assembly outside the factory.
So you failed with the injunction, you've generally failed at the criminal law, and you think this dodgy little bylaw is going to stop us? Report away, Inspector.
Okay, sir.
Yes, Simon.
Murderer! 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 Murderer!
There's the famous Zyklon B case in which the company Zyklon B supplied gas to the Nazis during the Second World War. After that there was cases brought against directors and also employees of the company. Not surprisingly, the employees were acquitted because there's no way they can be held accountable. They have no control over where the gas goes. But the directors were held to be complicit in war crimes because they have control over where that product ends up.
Now in this country at the moment, there is this culture of impunity where individuals are not held accountable for their actions. We at Smash EDO believe that Paul Hill should be held responsible for at least some of the deaths and suffering that is inflicted in Somalia, in Iraq.
Yes, you're right.
justify it. No, I don't.
There's no doubt that EDO are supplying weapons components which will end up being used in bombs, which will end up killing people. That is the nature of the arms trade.
I think that the arms company has gained notoriety for its activities.
Before the campaign started, I think hardly anybody knew that EDO existed. Hardly anybody knew there was an arms company in Brighton.
The people who work in that factory now know that everybody knows what they do at work, and that, I think, has probably had a real impact.
If you want to launch a campaign or a battle of any kind against somebody, you don't automatically go for the kind of strongest, the strongest kind of link. You go for the weakest link.
We are 1-0 so far, so you wouldn't want to consider them.
Keeping scores, are we?
Yes, we are. Don't worry. don't worry.
That's 4 years you've been here.
The campaign's now been going on for coming up to 4 years.
I think that's 4-0 to us, isn't it? We've been here 4 years.
It's no skin off our nose, mate. We've cost you £1 million.
The campaign does intend to win. We do intend to shut the factory down.
That's a victory as far as we're concerned. It's made it worth every second.
The military-industrial complex, the war machine, the arms industry, whatever you want to call it, is very big and very powerful in this country, and I think it's hard to know where to focus with it sometimes.
The other reason for targeting these companies, the companies who are supplying the nuts and bolts that go into the arms industry, is because they are small companies and because we can win.
EDO is right on our doorstep.
It's a very doable target.
It's a waste of time standing outside Rolls-Royce in Bristol. You're just not going to be heard. But it's kind of really important to kind of attack these local small arms manufacturers.
Size doesn't matter. It's what the end results of those products achieve, and that is ultimately killing innocent people. It is just another link in the chain.
It's all the same. It's all the same chain, really. It's all part of the same bigger setup.
If we can shut them down, it will send out ripples right across the arms trade.
Workers of EDO MBM,
of course he does.
The reason people are outside your factory is because we're not going to go away until we shut you down.
We're here for
and we are going to shut you down, Mr. Hills.
We will shut them down. I think if they could kind of, if they could move today with their tail between their legs and nobody know actually that they've gone, I think they kind of probably don't want to lose face.
Yes, we are. You're not doing very well, are you?
What have you closed so far?
EDO Corp are not doing very well. EDO MBM have lost too much money. It's highly possible that EDO will look at Britain and think it's no point having this company in this country.
The factory is very, very keen not to let us know what impact we're having.
How much money have we cost your company?
Chris, in 10 minutes.
Tell me how much money have we cost your company?
We hold you to that.
Is that a secret?
What are you going to do? You're going to climb over the...
Lots and lots of directors have resigned.
There has been at least 5 resignations of directors since the campaign started.
This is a company who really are on the verge of shutting down. I think the campaign can win, and I think that will be a very significant thing.
And if we shut this factory down, if we can shut down this outpost of a US arms company in Britain, in Brighton, if we can shut them down, that will send out a very powerful message that people power can succeed, that people power can affect the outcomes of these wars, of these conflicts.
You stand out here the last 3 years shouting at me, what are you going to win?
Well, I just told you, winning would mean shutting down your factory.
You're not going to do that.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
The message is out there. The message is out there that there is an arms company in Brighton and that there is an ongoing campaign to get rid of it.
I hope you're not damaging that nice suit you've got on. And we are going to shut you down, Mr. Hills. We are going to win.
Change the record.
We are going to win. We are going to be here until you're not.